The arrival of the Empire. The day the skies tore open, humanity thought it was the end. From every corner of Earth, people gazed upward as the heavens filled with steel and shadow. Vast starships, kilometers long, drifted into orbit like predators circling prey. They blotted out the sun in places, their hulls carved with angular runes and glowing with alien fire. Cities fell silent. Military radars screamed. Governments panicked behind closed doors. For a moment, humanity's ancient instinct, fear, returned in full force. After all, who wouldn't tremble at the sight of a fleet that could swallow Earth whole? Then, the announcement came. Across every screen, every broadcast channel, even old radios that hadn't worked for years, a voice thundered in perfect translation. Deep, booming, self-important. Behold! You stand in the presence of the Galactic Empire, rulers of 10,000 worlds and masters of countless species. Kneel, humans of Earth, for your place in the Great Order has been chosen. The speech continued, filled with the kind of grandiose titles no human monarch had dared to use since the Middle Ages. Eternal dominion. Benevolent conquest. Divine right of expansion. And for a few seconds, silence held. Then somewhere, no one knows if it was New York, Lagos or Karachi, it happened. Laughter. At first it was a chuckle, an unrestrained burst of disbelief that slipped past fear. Then more followed. Nervous giggles turned into belly laughs, until entire streets were laughing. Families in living rooms. Soldiers in bunkers. Even presidents and prime ministers, watching from secured facilities, covered their mouths to hide their smirks. By the time the alien emissary finished declaring Earth as property of the Emperor Eternal, flame of the infinite cosmos, humans were doubled over. It wasn't the threat. It wasn't the ships. It was the absurdity of it all. Did he just call himself Flame of the Infinite Cosmos? One teenager tweeted. Sounds like a bad Marvel villain, another replied. Memes were born within minutes. Someone photoshopped the Empire's towering emissary, a scaly, armored figure with glowing eyes, holding a world's best boss mug. Another replaced his speech with subtitles reading, Hi Earth, I'm starting a pyramid scheme across the galaxy. Want in? The Empire had conquered civilizations older and wiser than humanity. Their presence had been enough to break the spirits of empires that had lasted millennia. They expected Earth to kneel, to weep, to beg for mercy. Instead, humanity uploaded TikToks of people saluting the sky and yelling, Take me to your leader, oh wait, we don't like him either. In orbit, the Imperial fleet grew restless. Commanders barked orders, confused why no formal surrender had been transmitted. They're mocking us, one officer reported, his voice trembling. The humans are laughing. The Supreme Herald, the Empire's chosen mouthpiece for new conquests, bristled. He had delivered this same speech to 57 worlds. Entire civilizations had thrown themselves at his feet. And yet, here he was, broadcast across a planet of nearly 8 billion souls, and they were laughing in his face. This is unacceptable. He roared aboard his flagship. Activate intimidation protocols. Moments later, a colossal warship descended through the clouds, its cannons glowing with enough firepower to level continents. Sirens wailed across cities. Fighter jets scrambled in vain. The Herald appeared again on every screen, his reptilian face contorted with rage. Silence. You dare mock the Eternal Empire? You will kneel, or your world will burn. For one heartbeat, humanity froze. Mothers clutched their children. Soldiers gripped their rifles, knowing they were useless. The air felt heavy with doom. Then, in one corner of the world, someone shouted exactly what everyone was thinking. Bro, you sound like a Star Wars reject. The silence shattered. All at once, the planet roared with laughter again. Louder, braver, more defiant than before. The Herald's claws curled into fists. He had weapons to reduce Earth to ash in seconds. Yet in that moment, he realized something unsettling. Fear had always been his greatest weapon. But Earth wasn't afraid. And that was the beginning of the Empire's greatest problem. The joke that shook the stars. The Galactic Empire had always relied on spectacle. When their ships descended, when their herald declared submission, when their cannons glowed with untold destructive power, every species before humanity had folded instantly. To defy was unthinkable. To laugh was impossible. And yet, humanity had done both. The laughter didn't stop on Earth. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. News anchors could barely keep their composure, stifling chuckles as they replayed the herald's pompous declarations. Comedians went live, roasting the Empire on international television. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our new galactic overlord, flame of the infinite cosmos. Dude, your title sounds like a scented candle. The audience howled. On social media, memes multiplied. A picture of an Imperial battleship towering over New York, captioned, "Bro, compensate much?" Another showed the Empire's flag edited into a fast food logo, now serving domination in 10,000 galaxies. Extra fries with that conquest. But what humanity hadn't realized, at least not yet, was that the galaxy was watching. Unbeknownst to Earth, dozens of subjugated species tuned into intercepted transmissions. For centuries, they had suffered under the Empire's iron rule, broken by fear and obedience. But now, across hidden colonies, mining camps and conquered worlds, alien eyes widened at the sight of humans. They weren't cowering. They weren't begging. They were laughing. In the underground networks of the insectoid Vree, whispers began. They mock the herald. They do not fear. Perhaps we need not fear either. On a desolate moon where the Empire kept the amphibious Kayla chained in labor camps, workers smuggled a stolen human broadcast. It was a clip of a stand-up comedian in Los Angeles declaring, "If the Empire thinks they own Earth, they'd better take student debt, traffic jams, and taxes too. Good luck with that, losers." The Kayla erupted into alien warbles of laughter, a sound they hadn't made in generations. Guards looked on in confusion. Something dangerous was spreading. Back on Earth, the Imperial fleet seethed. The Herald demanded retaliation. "Crush their cities, silence their voices," he bellowed. But cooler heads in the Empire's high command hesitated. To annihilate Earth would erase not just resistance, but the reason for it, the laughter. If word spread that humans had mocked the Empire even in their final moments, it could spark rebellion everywhere. And so, the Empire tried something they had never done before: propaganda. They broadcast their own message into the galaxy, attempting to portray humans as insolent fools who didn't understand the greatness of the Empire. The Herald's booming voice rang across countless worlds. The humans laugh because they are ignorant. They laugh because they do not know the might of the Empire. Their laughter will end in chains. But the problem with propaganda was that it could be edited. Within hours, human hackers cut the speech into a parody, overlaying clown music and captions reading, "Galactic Empire, please take us seriously, pleading face, backhand index pointing right, backhand index pointing left." The video went viral not just on Earth, but across the stars. Other species, long cowed by tyranny, discovered the absurdity of their masters. On the trade world of Drosk, alien merchants whispered over smuggled vids. "Look at him. He is ridiculous. They are all ridiculous." The laughter spread further, carried by smugglers, rebel networks, even disloyal officers inside the Empire itself. For the first time in living memory, fear was no longer the Empire's only legacy. Now it was mockery. The Herald, enraged and humiliated, demanded that Earth surrender or be obliterated. Yet every threat, every ultimatum, was met with more jokes, more memes, more laughter. And with every laugh, humanity chipped away at the invisible chains that bound billions of others. Somewhere in the shadows of the galaxy, a spark caught fire. For centuries, the Empire's enemies had waited for weapons, for fleets, for armies strong enough to challenge tyranny. Instead, they found something far stranger: humans who fought not with guns but with humor. And it terrified the Empire more than any armada ever could. Empires fear what they cannot control. The Galactic Empire had built its power on a single foundation: fear. For thousands of years, their conquests had followed a pattern. Appear with overwhelming force. Deliver the Herald's declaration. Watch a civilization collapse into submission. If any resisted, they were erased, their ruins serving as reminders to others. It was efficient, absolute, and unquestionable. Until Earth. Now, the pattern had broken. The herald paced within his flagship, scales glinting under the glow of command holoscreens. His claws clicked against the floor, a sound his crew had learned to dread. Reports streamed in, each one worse than the last. "Lord Herald," said one officer nervously, "the humans, they have created more, our memes. They have spread to 10 neighboring sectors." "Define this meme," the herald snapped. The officer hesitated. "It is an image. Or a phrase. Repeated. Altered. Shared without control. The humans mock your words and they multiply the mockery. Then destroy them," the herald roared. "Censor them, confiscate them, incinerate them." The officer lowered his eyes. "We tried. Every time we ban one, 3 more appear. It is unstoppable." The herald's tail lashed furiously, but deep inside, unease festered. The Empire could silence weapons, crush armies, obliterate cities. But how did one kill laughter? On Earth, comedians became heroes. Late-night hosts roasted the Empire daily. Street performers acted out skits of Emperor Eternal tripping over his own cape. Even schoolchildren joined in, drawing pictures of starships replaced with rubber ducks. Humor became rebellion, rebellion became unity. What terrified the Empire most was that the laughter was contagious. On the slave world of Jarkal, alien miners carved crude graffiti into the walls of their tunnels, the herald's snarling face, but with oversized human clown makeup. Imperial guards tried to scrub it away, but the miners simply drew more. Soon, entire camps were buzzing with quiet giggles, the sound of a long-buried spirit rising again. In the barracks of the Empire's own soldiers, cracks began to form. A low-ranking trooper passed a smuggled human video to his squadmates. It showed a man standing on a rooftop, shouting to the skies. "Hey Empire! If you want Earth, you'll have to pay rent. And rent in New York is insane." The squad burst into laughter. One covered his mouth, horrified by the sound, but couldn't stop himself. When the officers entered, silence returned, but the laughter had already taken root. Desperation spread through the Empire's high command. Some urged immediate annihilation of Earth. "Burn them before their disease spreads further," one general hissed. But others hesitated. If Earth was destroyed now, the laughter would only grow louder, immortalized in memory and legend. And indeed, even whispers inside the Imperial Senate began to stir. If the humans' defiance could ripple across the galaxy so quickly, perhaps the Empire wasn't as invincible as it claimed. Perhaps it had always been a facade, a fortress built on sand, eroded by ridicule. The herald, sensing his authority slipping, prepared one final gambit. He would descend personally to Earth. He would silence their laughter face to face. He would break their spirit with terror incarnate. "Prepare my shuttle," he commanded, his voice trembling with fury. "I will stand before them. And I will remind these humans what it means to fear the Eternal Empire." But as his ship descended toward Earth's atmosphere, something gnawed at him, a question he dared not speak aloud. What if they laughed again? Because if they did, he knew the Empire was already lost. Humanity's legacy of laughter. The herald's shuttle tore through Earth's clouds, fire trailing behind its silver hull. Cities went silent as it descended, its shadow blotting out the sun. To the Empire, this was supposed to be the ultimate moment of domination, the living embodiment of fear stepping down onto conquered soil. The hatch opened with a hiss. The herald emerged in full ceremonial armor, scales glimmering black as obsidian, eyes burning with alien fire. His voice, amplified through the Empire's technology, boomed across continents. "Humans of Earth. I am the herald of the eternal flame, voice of the Emperor, conqueror of worlds. Your laughter ends today. Kneel, or be destroyed." The words echoed across oceans and mountains. For a moment, silence fell. Humanity held its breath. Soldiers gripped their rifles, knowing they were useless. Families watched from rooftops and streets. The herald waited for fear. For weeping. For surrender. Instead, a voice rang out from the crowd. "Nice cosplay, bro. Comic-Con's that way." Laughter exploded. Thousands roared in unison, their laughter rippling like thunder. Someone blasted circus music through a speaker. A child waved a toy lightsaber in mock salute. Comedians streamed the scene live, cracking jokes in real time. Memes were generated faster than the Empire's censors could react. Galactic Overlord or Discount Darth Vader? The Herald raised his claws, furious, his armored chest heaving. He summoned his soldiers, his war machines, his power. But with each threat, each roar of intimidation, the laughter only grew. And then it spread. The broadcast, hacked by human engineers, spilled across the galaxy. Billions of oppressed aliens, miners, slaves, broken empires, watched as Earth's people laughed directly into the face of the conqueror. They heard the circus music. They saw the mockery. And they laughed too. On Jakul, miners dropped their tools, laughing until tears streamed down their alien faces. On Vree-Hive worlds, insectoid drones clattered their mandibles in defiant mirth. In Kala labor camps, workers rolled on the ground, their strange bubbling laughter echoing off cavern walls. The galaxy shook with something stronger than rebellion. It shook with joy. Imperial soldiers, once conditioned to terror, faltered. Some tried to maintain discipline, but laughter is infectious. A trooper watching the Herald's furious rants couldn't hold back a snort. Another laughed harder. Soon, whole units were chuckling behind their helmets. The Herald turned, horrified, as his own army trembled with laughter. "Stop! Stop this!" he screamed. "Do not laugh at me. I am the voice of the Emperor." But the more he raged, the funnier it became. His fury, his pompous titles, his threats, all reduced to farce. The more he demanded silence, the louder the laughter grew. And in that moment, the Galactic Empire cracked. Because fear had always been its foundation. And humanity had destroyed it with the simplest weapon of all, humor. In the weeks that followed, the Empire collapsed like a dying star. Rebellions erupted everywhere, fueled not by vengeance, but by ridicule. Imperial propaganda was mocked, statues of the Emperor were turned into playground slides, war banners repainted with jokes. The galaxy discovered that tyranny, once laughed at, could never regain its hold. On Earth, humans celebrated not with parades of soldiers, but with festivals of comedy. Stages were set in every city, where people retold the story of the day they laughed at the Empire. Children wore costumes of the mighty Herald, with oversized clown shoes. Even former alien slaves arrived on Earth to perform stand-up routines about their oppressors. And as the galaxy rebuilt itself, one truth became legend. Humanity had not won with armies, fleets, or weapons. They had won with laughter. Centuries later, historians would teach it as the moment the galaxy changed forever. Monuments were not carved of generals or battles, but of ordinary humans caught laughing under alien warships. A single phrase was etched in countless languages across the stars. Empires fall. Laughter endures. And the world that once trembled at the Empire's shadow was forever remembered as the planet that laughed, and toppled tyranny with joy.